In a world that constantly demands more of us, more of our time, more of our thoughts, more of our hearts, it is easy to forget that there are things so sacred, so personal, that they should never be offered up for the world to see. We live in a society that celebrates the sharing of everything, from the trivial to the intimate, from the fleeting to the forever. But let me ask you, what happens when we strip away the value of privacy? What becomes of our integrity, our peace of mind, and our very identity? In 2025, we are more connected than ever before, yet perhaps more vulnerable than we realize. We are bombarded with demands to expose, to reveal, and to surrender what should remain under our careful guard. This is not a message to retreat into isolation, but a call to wisdom, a call to protect the most precious parts of who we are. Today, I want to speak to you about 7 things that you must keep private in the year ahead, not for fear of others, but for the preservation of your own soul, for the defense of your dignity, and for the peace that only comes when you know what is meant for public eyes and what is not. I ask you to listen closely, for what I share today is not mere advice. It is a principle of life, a wisdom passed down through generations that will empower you to live with clarity and purpose in an increasingly chaotic world. In this age of social media and constant connectivity, one of the most important things we must safeguard is our deeply held beliefs and convictions. These are the foundational truths upon which we build our lives. They define who we are at our core and set the boundaries for how we interact with the world around us. But too often we feel compelled to share these beliefs with anyone and everyone, as if their validation somehow makes them more real, more solid, or more worthy of being held. We share them to fit in, to be liked, to receive affirmation. We allow ourselves to be swept into the current of popular opinion, when all along we know deep down that the most valuable truths we possess are not meant to be put on display for the masses. Let's be clear about this. Your beliefs are yours, and yours alone. They were forged over time, through struggles and personal experiences, often shaped in solitude or through quiet moments of introspection. These beliefs, whether they are spiritual, moral, or philosophical, are the bedrock of your identity. They are what anchor you when the storms of life rage, what guide you when the path ahead is unclear. But they are not for everyone. Not every opinion needs to be shared. Not every belief needs to be paraded for public consumption. In the rush of this modern age, we have become obsessed with the idea of transparency. We think that the more we reveal about ourselves, the more authentic we will be. But true authenticity is not about making every aspect of your personal journey available for public critique. It's about living according to your convictions, whether or not the world sees them, understands them, or agrees with them. It's about having a sense of self that is strong enough to withstand the pressures of a society that wants to mold you into something else. When we lay our beliefs bare for all to see, we open ourselves up to criticism, to ridicule, and to the dangerous temptation of seeking approval. There is a world out there that will try to twist and distort your convictions to fit its own agenda. It will challenge you to compromise, to bend, to dilute what you know to be true in order to make peace with the crowd. But let me tell you something. Peace with the crowd is fleeting. It is shallow. The approval of others is not what will sustain you in the long run. It is the integrity of your own beliefs that will stand firm when everything else crumbles. And that is why these beliefs must remain private, guarded with the utmost care, for they are what give you the strength to endure. Consider this. How many times have we seen someone share their beliefs publicly, only to be swarmed with opposition, derision, or outright hatred? How many times have we seen someone post a thought or opinion online, only to have it taken out of context, misinterpreted, and used against them? What started as a genuine expression of what they believe quickly becomes a weapon in someone else's hands, a tool for division, an excuse for contempt. What should have been a deeply personal conviction has now become fodder for public debate, a battleground for opinions that have nothing to do with the truth of the matter, but everything to do with how the world sees it. This is not a path you want to walk, not because we should be afraid of opposition, but because we should be wise about where and how we engage with the world. When you share something as sacred as your beliefs, you risk making them a source of division rather than a source of peace. You risk exposing your convictions to the scrutiny of a world that is more interested in winning arguments than in understanding one another. And this does not mean you should shy away from standing firm in your beliefs when the situation demands it. There are times when you will be called upon to speak out, to defend the truth, and to stand for what you know is right, but you must choose those moments carefully. Not every platform is worth your time. Not every argument is worth your energy. If you give away your convictions freely, you will find yourself caught in a cycle of constant defense, forever explaining yourself, forever justifying your stance. That is not the life of peace or purpose you were meant to live. There is a quiet strength in keeping your beliefs private. It is not a weakness or a cowardice, but a disciplined choice to preserve your integrity and to avoid being dragged into unnecessary conflict. When you do speak, let it be because you've been called to do so, not because the world demands it. Let it be because the moment requires the strength of your conviction, not because you need validation from anyone. It's also important to remember that not every disagreement needs to be aired in public. We live in a time where everyone is eager to share their opinions on every subject imaginable, but some things, some matters of the soul, are too sacred to be debated in the court of public opinion. When you offer your beliefs to the world, you risk exposing them to ridicule, to distortion, to being misunderstood, and that can lead to a fracture in your own understanding, a confusion about what you truly believe and why you believe it. When we choose to keep our beliefs private, we are not hiding from the world, but rather protecting what is most precious to us. This doesn't mean we avoid difficult conversations or retreat into silence when we are called to speak. It means that we guard our inner convictions with wisdom, choosing the right moments to share them and the right people to share them with. So let me say it plainly, your beliefs are yours to protect. They are the compass that guides you, the foundation that holds you steady in a world that is constantly shifting. Don't allow the noise of the world to drown out the quiet, steady voice of truth that comes from within you. Keep those sacred things close to your heart and share them only with those who are worthy of understanding them. The world does not need to know everything about you. There is strength in keeping some things private. And in doing so, you will find that your convictions remain unshaken, no matter how loud the world becomes. When it comes to intimate relationships and family matters, we must be especially vigilant about the things we choose to share with others. The bond between you and your loved ones is sacred, something that, if treated with the reverence it deserves, should remain protected from the world. In this age where the lines between private and public life are often blurred, it is all too easy to fall into the trap of sharing personal details about our relationships, our marriages, or our families, thinking that doing so will make us more relatable or transparent. But what we fail to realize is that by doing so, we expose not only our own vulnerabilities, but we invite others to pass judgment on the most important connections we have in this life, and that is something we should guard against with everything we have. There is a temptation, especially in our modern culture, to use our personal relationships as content, something to be consumed by an audience. It is no longer uncommon to see people sharing intimate moments, whether it's a family gathering, a romantic date, or even a disagreement, for the sake of likes, views, or attention. But here's the truth: the deeper the relationship, the more it should be kept private. These are the moments that shape you. These are the relationships that have the potential to either uplift you or break you. They are not meant to be put on display for the world to see, judge, or comment on. When we make the mistake of inviting others into the private matters of our closest relationships, we open the door to a kind of scrutiny and criticism that is not only unnecessary but deeply damaging. Think about it for a moment. What happens when you let the world into your marriage, your family life, or your closest friendships? You risk losing the intimacy that makes those relationships special in the first place. When everyone knows the details of your struggles, your joys, or your frustrations, they no longer remain uniquely yours. They become fodder for public conversation, and you are left feeling exposed, vulnerable, and sometimes even ashamed of things that were never meant to be public. You can't have deep, meaningful relationships when they are constantly being interrupted by the opinions and judgments of others. The people who matter most to you should not be reduced to mere characters in a public story for others to dissect and critique. And make no mistake, once something is shared with the world, it is hard to reclaim. A simple social media post, a brief mention in a conversation, or a casual remark can quickly spiral into something that, no matter how hard you try, can never be fully erased. The damage done is not always immediate, but over time, as the world continues to feed on those fragments of your personal life, it will wear away at the very fabric of your relationships. A once private disagreement becomes a point of public contention. A joyful family event turns into material for comparison and envy, and what happens then? The very essence of the relationship is diluted, and it becomes harder to see your loved ones as they truly are, people you care for deeply, not just people you've allowed others to scrutinize. We must ask ourselves, who are we sharing these moments for? Is it for the approval of others, or is it because we feel the need to be understood? The sad truth is that no matter how much we share, no matter how many likes or comments we get, there is a deep emptiness that comes from seeking validation through public exposure. The approval we so desperately seek from others in these moments is fleeting, and it often comes at a much higher cost than we realize. The privacy of our relationships is a gift, one that should be cherished and protected. It is a space where we can be vulnerable, where we can grow, and where we can truly know and be known by the people who matter most. But when we open that space to everyone, we risk losing the purity of those connections. We expose our families, our marriages, and our friendships to forces beyond our control, and we invite the opinions, the judgments, and the criticisms of people who often don't understand the depth of our connections. Now, this doesn't mean that we should retreat into isolation or refuse to share meaningful moments with those around us, but it does mean we must exercise wisdom. There is a time and place for sharing your life, but not every detail needs to be made public. Not every conflict needs to be aired. Not every success or failure needs to be broadcast to the world. The relationships that matter most are the ones we build in private, away from the gaze of the crowd. They are the ones where we are truly ourselves, where we are able to be raw, real, and genuine without the pressure of outside expectations. Think about the relationships that have shaped you the most. I'm sure they are the ones that have weathered storms together, that have been forged in quiet moments of care and understanding, in times when the world didn't know and didn't need to know what was going on. Those are the relationships that matter. Those are the ones that have the potential to change you, to mold you into the person you are meant to be, but they cannot be what they are meant to be if they are constantly under the scrutiny of the world. The world wants us to share everything, to live in public, to expose every part of ourselves to the eyes of others. But the truth is that the more we share, the less of ourselves we truly have left. And when it comes to the most important relationships in our lives, we must ask ourselves whether we are willing to sacrifice privacy for the sake of fleeting attention. The cost is often too high, and the reward, though seemingly momentary, is hollow in the end. Let us then choose wisely the things we share and the moments we open up to the world. Protect your relationships, guard your family, and keep those intimate details close to your heart. The deeper the connection, the more it deserves to be kept sacred. Protect it fiercely, for it is the very thing that will anchor you in this ever-changing world. We live in a world obsessed with wealth, status, and outward appearances. Every day we're bombarded with messages that tell us our value is somehow tied to what we own, how much we make, or the things we can buy. The constant comparisons, the pressure to keep up with the latest trends, and the relentless desire for more can create a dangerous mindset. But one of the most important things you can do in 2025 is to guard your financial information with everything you have. Your financial situation, your income, your assets. These things are sacred, and they are yours to protect. The moment you allow your financial details to be exposed to the world, you open yourself up to a host of dangers. First, you expose yourself to envy and comparison. The world is filled with people who will look at your success or your lack of success and measure their own lives against it. They will either envy what you have or criticize you for not having more, and in the process your peace of mind will be stolen. You will begin to measure your worth not by the integrity of your character or the quality of your work, but by what others think of what you have. This is a trap, one that robs you of your ability to live freely and with joy. It's important to remember that your value is not tied to your net worth. Your worth is not determined by the size of your paycheck or the balance in your bank account. But when you allow your finances to be visible, when you open that door to others, you give them the power to judge you based on things that don't define you. The more you allow the world to scrutinize your financial situation, the more you allow it to dictate your sense of identity. It becomes a game of comparisons, of living up to someone else's standard, of trying to meet an impossible expectation. But beyond the danger of comparison, there is a deeper issue: manipulation. When others know too much about your financial situation, they gain power over you. Whether it's through direct or subtle means, people will begin to use that information to influence your decisions, to sway your opinions, or even to demand something from you. And the more you share, the more you open the door for others to try to take advantage of you. They may not always do so maliciously, but the reality is that knowledge is power, and when others know your weaknesses, they will exploit them, whether intentionally or not. The more you broadcast your financial situation, the more you invite others to try and use it against you. This might not be obvious at first, but over time you'll start to notice it. A colleague might suggest that you invest in something risky. A friend might pressure you to spend money in a way that doesn't align with your values. A company might try to manipulate your buying habits. When your financial situation is known, it becomes a tool for others to use, often without you even realizing it. This is why it's critical to keep such details private. Your financial decisions should be yours alone, based on your own values, goals, and vision for your future, not influenced by the expectations or desires of others. Then there's the matter of privacy. We all need a space where we can make decisions without fear of judgment. The decisions we make about our money, how we spend it, how we save it, and how we invest it, should be made in a space of personal reflection and careful consideration. The more we open up about these choices, the more we risk inviting opinions that aren't helpful, opinions that may undermine our confidence or push us in directions that aren't right for us. When we expose our financial situation, we give up that private space, that sacred ground where we can make decisions based on what is best for us, not on what others think. In a world that increasingly wants everything to be transparent, we must remember that not every aspect of our lives is meant to be shared. Our finances, in particular, should remain one of those sacred areas of privacy. It's not about being secretive or dishonest, it's about understanding that there is wisdom in discretion. When we choose to keep our financial situation private, we create a buffer, a space where we can think clearly, make wise decisions, and avoid the pressures of external expectations. It gives us the freedom to make choices based on what we truly need, rather than what others think we should do. Furthermore, when we keep our financial details private, we protect ourselves from unnecessary stress. It's no secret that money is a source of anxiety for many people. The fear of not having enough, the worry about how to make ends meet, or the constant striving to acquire more can weigh heavily on our hearts and minds. But when we allow others into that space, when we open up about our financial struggles or successes, we invite them to add to that stress. It can lead to well-meaning advice that only increases our anxiety, or worse, creates feelings of shame if we don't measure up to what others expect. There's also the issue of security. The more you expose about your finances, the more vulnerable you become to theft, fraud, or other criminal activities. In this digital age, personal financial data can be stolen with alarming ease. It's not just about physical security anymore, but digital security. When we share too much online or with too many people, we expose ourselves to the risk of having our information exploited by people who don't have our best interests at heart. Identity theft, scams, and financial fraud are real threats, and the more private your financial information remains, the less likely you are to fall victim to these dangers. Lastly, let's talk about freedom. The moment you tie your sense of self to your financial situation, you are enslaved by it, you become a prisoner to the need for more, to the pressure to succeed by the world's standards. But when you keep your financial situation private, when you release yourself from the chains of comparison, you begin to experience true freedom. You free yourself from the endless cycle of striving for approval, for success, for status. You find peace in knowing that your worth is not determined by what you have, but by who you are. So, keep your finances private, guard them fiercely, let them remain your own business, your own responsibility. Do not let the world measure you by your bank account, your investments, or your material possessions. The only thing that should define you is the character you build, the work you do, and the relationships you nurture. When you do that, you will live free from the destructive grip of comparison, manipulation, and insecurity. In this modern age, it's easy to forget that mental and emotional health struggles are deeply personal and should not be laid bare for the world to scrutinize. We live in a time when people share their most intimate battles, struggles with anxiety, depression, addiction, and other emotional or mental health issues, on social media as if it's a form of therapy or validation. While it is important to acknowledge the reality of these struggles and seek help when necessary, we must also be cautious about what we expose to the public eye. Your mental and emotional health is too precious, too sacred, to be displayed as a spectacle or subject to the cold judgment of strangers. It's not that you should hide your pain or suffer in silence. On the contrary, it's essential to seek help, whether it's through therapy, support groups, or a trusted circle of friends and family. But there's a difference between sharing your struggle with those who can help and airing your emotional burdens for everyone to see. When we make our battles with mental health public, we risk losing the privacy that is essential for healing. Healing is a deeply personal process, one that requires time, space, and understanding. When we expose our struggles too freely, we invite others to project their own judgments, opinions, and unsolicited advice onto our experiences. We expose ourselves to a world that often views mental health through a lens of misunderstanding, stigma, or even mockery. Think about the last time you saw someone share their mental health journey online. Perhaps it was a post about feeling overwhelmed, about battling depression, or about struggling to cope with anxiety. While many might offer kind words and support, the truth is that it's not always helpful. In fact, when it becomes public, it opens the door to the opinions of people who may not have the depth of understanding or the empathy to offer meaningful help. It invites a flood of comments, sometimes well-meaning but often misguided, that can further complicate the emotional terrain of someone who is already vulnerable. By putting our struggles on display, we lose control over how they are interpreted, how they are addressed, and how others perceive our worth. Moreover, public exposure of mental and emotional health issues can inadvertently lead to a cycle of self-doubt and shame. When we post about our pain, we often do so with the hope of receiving validation, understanding, or sympathy. But the reality is that not everyone will respond the way we hope. Some people may criticize us, belittle our struggles, or even dismiss them entirely. Others may attempt to fix us, offering advice that we are not ready for or that doesn't address the root of the problem. And when those responses come, they can deepen our sense of isolation and inadequacy. It can make us feel as though our pain is not valid, our struggles are insignificant, or our worth is somehow less than it was before we shared our vulnerabilities with the world. It's important to remember that not every part of your emotional journey needs to be shared for others to validate or understand. There is a profound power in keeping some of your inner struggles private, keeping them sacred, and only sharing them with those who have earned the right to walk beside you in your pain. Not every fight needs to be fought in public. In fact, many of the deepest and most significant battles are fought in silence, in the quiet of your heart, or in trusted conversations with a counselor, mentor, or close friend. Healing doesn't always need an audience. Often, the most profound progress happens in the moments when no one is watching, when you are alone with your thoughts, wrestling with your pain, and working through it in ways that don't require the approval or validation of others. Consider how the world reacts when someone publicly shares their emotional struggle. It's often met with a mixture of support and curiosity, but that curiosity can be invasive. People want to know the details, they want to understand the why behind the pain, and they want to offer solutions that may not be appropriate. There is a danger in making our pain public because it invites the world to treat our vulnerabilities as a form of entertainment or spectacle. The more we expose our emotional wounds, the more likely we are to feel as though we are defined by them. Our identity can become inextricably linked to the struggles we've faced, and we risk losing sight of the fact that we are more than our pain. We are not the sum of our scars, and we should not let the world define us by the battles we are fighting. Now, this is not to say that we should hide our struggles or pretend that we have everything together. That's not the goal. We need to be honest with ourselves and with others about the challenges we face, but there is wisdom in choosing carefully who we share with and when we share. Not every moment of struggle needs to be shared with a broad audience. Not every breakdown or setback needs to be documented for the world to see. Healing is often a slow, steady process, and it should not be rushed or forced into the spotlight. It should be nurtured in a safe, private space where we can be vulnerable without fear of judgment. There is also something profoundly beautiful in the way we guard our emotional well-being. By keeping certain aspects of our mental health private, we allow ourselves the room to grow, to reflect, and to heal in a way that feels authentic to us. We allow ourselves the grace to work through our issues without feeling the pressure of others watching, waiting for us to get better in their time frame. The process of healing becomes more about our personal journey, our individual steps forward, rather than a performance for an audience. And let's not forget the importance of confidentiality in seeking help. It's crucial to find people, whether a therapist, a close friend, or a trusted advisor, who can offer the kind of support that you need without sharing your struggles with others. It's vital to create spaces in your life where you can be honest and open without fear of your vulnerability being used against you. Your emotional health is yours to protect, and it is not something to be treated lightly or used for the entertainment or judgment of others. Ultimately, we need to reclaim the narrative around mental and emotional health. These struggles are real, and they deserve respect, understanding, and, most importantly, privacy. You have the right to protect your emotional health, to choose who knows about your inner battles, and to decide when and how to seek help. Your pain doesn't have to be public, and your healing doesn't have to be rushed. Some of the most powerful moments in life are the ones that happen behind closed doors, in quiet moments of reflection, prayer, or conversation with those who truly care. And remember, your worth is not determined by your struggles, but by your strength to rise above them. In this rapidly evolving world, we often forget how vulnerable we are when we share too much about our personal plans and goals. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of our ambitions and start talking about them before they are even fully formed. We might think that sharing our dreams and goals with others will help motivate us, hold us accountable, or even inspire support, but in reality, revealing too much too soon can put us at a distinct disadvantage. When we share our plans before they are realized, we open ourselves up to criticism, distraction, and unnecessary pressure. Worse, we risk losing the energy and clarity we need to make those plans a reality in the first place. There is something deeply personal and sacred about the goals we set for ourselves. They represent our hopes, our future, and the effort we are willing to invest in achieving something meaningful. But when we share them too early, we create an opening for doubt and discouragement to seep in. People are naturally curious, and often they won't hesitate to ask questions or offer opinions. They may wonder how you're going to pull it off or whether you're being realistic. They may throw in their own judgments or make comparisons to others who have tried and failed. And while some of these questions and comments might seem innocent, they can plant seeds of doubt in our hearts. Instead of staying focused and driven, we can become distracted by the doubts of others or second-guess our own decisions. The truth is, when we talk about our dreams too early, we give away a piece of our power. We put ourselves in a position where we are constantly defending our goals or trying to explain ourselves. The more we talk about what we intend to do, the more we create a sense of obligation to others. Suddenly, our goals are not just our own. They become the expectations of those around us. We might feel pressured to achieve them on someone else's timeline, or worse, we might begin to fear failure in a way that stifles our progress. It's no longer just about what we want to accomplish, but about what we've said we would do for others to hear. But there's more to this than simply managing the pressure from others. When we share our plans too early, we rob ourselves of the chance to build the momentum and confidence that come from working in silence. There's a special kind of energy that comes when we are allowed to focus solely on our goals, when we can build them without outside interference. We need that space to make mistakes, to refine our strategies, and to see what works without feeling the need to explain ourselves at every step of the way. When we constantly talk about our plans, we end up taking energy away from the action that is required to make those plans come to life. Have you ever noticed how often the most successful people are the ones who say very little about their goals until they have already accomplished something significant? There's wisdom in that silence. They understand that the process of achieving a goal involves many moving parts, unexpected obstacles, and countless hours of hard work that others simply won't see. They don't need external validation or approval to move forward, and they certainly don't need to justify their every decision to others. They protect their plans, their vision, and their time. They focus on action rather than words. The results speak for themselves, and in the end, that's all that matters. When we keep our goals to ourselves, we also protect them from the kind of negative energy that can be found in the world. Whether it's through jealousy, skepticism, or even well-meaning but misguided advice, there are always voices that will try to steer us away from our path. The world is filled with people who are quick to point out the reasons why something won't work, why it's too difficult, or why we should settle for something smaller or more realistic. But when we hold our plans close to our chest, we are able to bypass those distractions and stay true to our vision. We can build, we can fail, we can learn, and we can grow, all without worrying about what others think. One of the greatest mistakes we make is assuming that others need to know about our plans to offer support. But the reality is, there are people who may not fully understand our journey or our vision. They may not see the work behind the scenes or grasp the sacrifices we are making. And even if they do support us, their understanding of our goals may still be limited. The more we talk about our plans, the more we risk miscommunication or misinterpretation. What we see as a carefully crafted strategy, others might see as a lofty dream with no clear path. And while it's important to have a support system, it's even more important to have a group of people who truly understand what you're trying to achieve, people who are not quick to judge or impose their own limitations on your vision. Moreover, by keeping our goals private, we allow ourselves the room to shift and adapt. Plans, especially big ones, are rarely linear. There are twists and turns, setbacks, and new opportunities that we couldn't have predicted when we first began. If we're constantly sharing our journey with others, we may feel compelled to stick to a plan that no longer serves us simply because we've already talked about it. We become trapped in the expectations we've set, both for ourselves and for others. But when we keep our plans close, we give ourselves the freedom to change direction, adjust our timelines, and make the best decisions based on the circumstances we are facing, rather than on the need to uphold a promise made in the past. Another benefit of keeping our goals private is the element of surprise. There's something powerful about quietly working toward a goal and letting the results speak for themselves. When we announce every step of the journey, we lose the element of mystery and we strip away the power of our achievements. When people are surprised by our success, they will be forced to recognize the effort and dedication that went into it. Our victories will carry more weight when they are earned in silence and revealed in due time. The truth is, the fewer people know about your plans, the more impressed they will be when you deliver. Finally, we need to recognize that not every goal needs to be shared with the world for it to be meaningful. Some goals are deeply personal, goals that reflect our inner growth, our self-discovery, and our pursuit of purpose. These are the goals that shape us into who we are meant to become. They don't need to be validated by others. They don't need to be applauded or acknowledged by an audience. The satisfaction of achieving them should be enough. When we keep these goals to ourselves, we protect the sanctity of our personal journey, and we allow ourselves to find fulfillment in the quiet pursuit of something meaningful. In the end, there's a profound power in protecting your plans. By keeping them private, you safeguard your energy, your focus, and your peace of mind. You are free from the distractions, the expectations, and the judgments of others. And when the time is right, when the plan has been realized and the work has been done, you can share your success with the world, knowing that it was achieved on your own terms. In the age of social media and constant connectivity, there's a tendency to share every part of our lives, from what we ate for lunch to the deepest and most intimate moments we experience. But there is one area that we must be incredibly cautious about sharing: our relationships. Whether it's with a spouse, a significant other, close friends, or even family members, the private dynamics that define the most important relationships in our lives should be kept just that private. Relationships are sacred, and when we broadcast them to the world, we risk distorting their value and inviting unnecessary drama, judgment, and even harm. Think about how relationships are portrayed in the media and on social platforms. It's often the highlight reel, the perfect moments, the smiles, the vacations, the anniversaries. But behind those polished images, there's a lot more going on. There are the difficult conversations, the silent struggles, the miscommunications, and the moments of growth that aren't captured in a selfie. What happens when we share these vulnerable moments with the world is that we lose control over how others perceive them. We invite opinions, sometimes from well-meaning people, other times from strangers, that may not truly understand the complexity of our relationships. Let's be clear, relationships require a great deal of care, effort, and privacy to thrive. The most important relationships in our lives are not meant to be used as entertainment for others. The more we share about our personal connections, the more we open the door for others to scrutinize, judge, and even try to offer unsolicited advice. These outside opinions can create tension, miscommunication, and unnecessary stress. We risk compromising the very trust and intimacy that are the foundation of these relationships. In the context of a romantic relationship, the danger of oversharing is particularly evident. When we open the door to our romantic lives, whether it's through social media posts, casual conversations, or blog-style updates, we invite everyone, friends, family, acquaintances, and even complete strangers, into the most intimate parts of our connection. What begins as an innocent post about a dinner date or a shared moment of joy can quickly escalate into a constant sharing of personal highs and lows. And the more we expose, the more we risk inviting judgment, misunderstanding, and unwanted advice. The truth is, no one else truly knows what goes on behind closed doors. No one else knows the intricacies of your communication, the shared experiences, or the private agreements you've made. Yet, when you share these details with the world, you lose the power to control the narrative. Your relationship is now something others can comment on, critique, or even compare to their own. The reality is that your relationship is unique, and it should not be placed on display for others to pass judgment. Every relationship faces challenges, and what you choose to share or don't share can affect how you, your partner, and others perceive those challenges. By sharing the details of your relationship publicly, you also risk diminishing its value. Relationships are built on trust, vulnerability, and shared experiences that are sacred. When these moments are exposed to an audience, they become vulnerable to exploitation. Instead of enjoying those moments for what they truly are, you start to see them through the lens of how they will be perceived by others. It shifts the focus from the joy, the love, and the intimacy you are sharing with your partner to something more superficial, something meant to be liked, shared, or commented on. The very essence of those intimate moments is lost when they are commodified for the entertainment of others. Even when we share challenges within our relationships, we must be cautious. Sometimes relationships hit rough patches, and during those times it's natural to want to seek advice or express our frustration. However, broadcasting every disagreement or argument on social media or with others can be destructive. It invites pity, judgment, or worse, it might cause others to form opinions about your partner that are based on a limited and one-sided view. The reality is, every relationship has its ups and downs, and sharing the low points can distort the narrative, making it appear as though the entire relationship is in turmoil when it may, in fact, be a temporary challenge. Furthermore, when we involve others too much in our personal relationships, we risk damaging our own sense of autonomy and connection. Your relationship is meant to be a safe space, a place where both parties can express themselves freely without fear of outside judgment or interference. When we start to rely on external validation for our relationship's worth, or when we look to others for solutions to our problems, we lose that intimacy. Relationships are at their strongest when they are nurtured in private, when both individuals feel the freedom to work through challenges without external pressure or influence. And what about the long-term effects of oversharing? What happens when we look back on those moments we shared online, in blogs, or in public forums? Often we see a distorted version of our past, a version shaped by the opinions of others, by the reactions we sought, and by the feedback we received. We may even regret sharing those private moments because they no longer feel as intimate or genuine as they once did. Once something is shared with the public, it's no longer just yours. It's out there, floating in the digital world, subject to the whims of anyone who stumbles upon it. Let's not forget that relationships are about growth and change. What feels like a monumental issue today may, in time, become something that strengthens your connection. The struggles you face today are the lessons that will shape your bond in the future. However, when you expose these challenges to the world, you risk allowing others to define your relationship by those struggles. Others may not see the resolution, the reconciliation, or the growth that happens behind the scenes. All they see is a snapshot, a single moment that may not fully capture the entirety of your journey together. Finally, think about the example you are setting for others when you constantly share the details of your relationships. If you are constantly putting your personal life out there, what message are you sending to those around you, particularly younger individuals or those looking up to you? You are teaching them that relationships are something to be broadcast, analyzed, and validated by others. You are teaching them that privacy and intimacy have little value, and that relationships are for public consumption rather than personal connection. That's not the legacy you want to leave. Relationships deserve respect, and part of that respect is maintaining their privacy and protecting their sacred space. In the end, the most important relationships in our lives are the ones that thrive behind closed doors, away from the public eye. They are built on trust, respect, and the quiet moments that make them meaningful. When we share too much with others, we risk diminishing their value, inviting judgment, and losing control over the narrative. Keep your relationships private and protect them fiercely. Guard the intimacy you share with those who matter most. And remember, the strongest relationships are often the ones that are quietly nurtured in the safety of privacy.